Okay, guys. First of all, just forgive me if this video is a little bit disjointed here and there. I'm just kind of putting things together still as I'm making this video. So one thing I wanted to start with is I'm looking at the number 17 now. I know a lot of people have commented about the number 17 and how they've found it in different places. But I'm going to point out a few things in the iPad Goat video that is leading me to the 17th, which is today. At the moment, it is 6 o'clock in the morning over here in the UK. So the video is coming a little late in terms of warning, but this is only kind of I've only kind of seen it now, so I'm going to get it uploaded as quickly as possible. The first thing I want to point out is when we've got this yin yang symbol here, and the dividing line is between them. As the line zooms out, it makes the number 17. So you'll see. You see how it kind of curves over? So it looks a bit not like a 7 there, but let me just go back. So let's play. So you've got 7 and you've got 1. Now, when I do these interpretations and I see a number, I try and look for confirmation of that number to see if it's something that is repeated throughout the video or if it's just a one-off. So as the scene moves on, I'll just let it play. So if this is the Winter Olympics on the Korean Peninsula and the 300,000 Chinese troops that have moved from the moved to the North Korean Chinese border are represented here with the tanks moving forward towards a borderline, and the girl here represents the unification of Korea, and possibly Kim Jong Un's sister or the other lady that carried the flag into the Olympics. That would mean that something has to happen during that time. So the Olympics ends on the 25th, and if this part of the video is talking about the Olympics, then it narrows it down to a more specific time frame if we keep watching. So this skeleton has now been kind of linked possibly to the skeleton event that's happening at the Olympics, and that runs from the 15th of February to the 17th of February. That means it ends today. So if the video is saying that something's going to happen during the skeleton event at the Olympics, it has to happen today. The skeleton skeleton event at the Olympics ends at 10:25 UTC time. So if something is due to happen today, is there more confirmation? So we've already got what I think is the 17 as the dividing line is separating out the yin yang. Looks like a 1 and 7 is drawn there. Now on the skeleton's tooth, if you take this as a 1 and you take this as an upside down 7, then you've got another 17 here. It appears that it's depicting the death, some form of death, whether it's related to Donald Trump, as I think this skeleton figure may represent, because it's got a diamond ring and the cape and the top hat, and it signifies a rich man. And Donald Trump is a rich man. And he has an affinity with the number 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 17, 70, basically a whole bunch of sevens. And I've made quite a few videos on that already. If you want to go back and have a look, feel free. But if you can't be bothered, just take my word for it. Donald Trump and the number 7 in all its forms seem to have some form of strange connection. And obviously a lot of people interpret 777 as a connection to God, and the number 7 being the amount of days, it took to create the earth, and on the 7th day he rested. There's plenty of references to 7 trumpets, 7 bowls, 7 seals. There's loads of it. So could this be saying that Donald Trump dies on the 17th or is shot on the 17th? I know putting it out there, it's a lot to take in. But then I think about the classroom scene and the LC that we have. Again, the LC is is just so many layers to one particular scene. But as well as the 18th, which I'm now considering whether this part represents 18, but obviously 18 is referenced a lot of times in the video, so I'm not going to change my mind on that. 18 is still significant. But I pointed out before how on the floor of the chalkboard, excuse me, on the floor in the classroom, not on the chalkboard, there's an A scratched in down here. And A, if it represents numerically the number 1, then you've got 1 and 7, which again could be 17. Some people may find that subjective, so I think I've got something a little bit more definite for you in terms of the number 17. When the apple gets over here, we can see that the shadow not only makes an X on Obama's foot, but also the shadow could be taken as a 1, and then you've got a 7 here, 17 again. So you might have 17 on this side, and you've got 17 on this side. And as I've shown before, as the scene develops, you get an F which is formed here, and that could represent February, so 17th of February. More correlation. So I took a look at the chalkboard scene, because the chalkboard scene seems to have a lot of different meanings. Although it seems to be sparsely filled with images, it has a lot of different correlations. So not only was it able to kind of depict February the 14th with a 7-7 upside down and the references to love and possible Valentine's Day massacre, which actually happened, and 17 people died, which again could have been referenced here, but I didn't see it. I was looking at the Fs and I was looking at the 14s. It could have also been giving us the number of people to die. If you see here, 17. I've marked out the pound coin here just to show you, in case you couldn't see it before, as to how the pound coin seems to be hidden within the images of the shark. But not only that, the shark appears to be made out of 1s and 7s. You can see I've put the 1s in yellow, apart from the pound coin. So these 2 1s here, and then the 7s are in red, as I can see them. So it appears 17 is significant, and whether that was referring to the 17 people that died on the 14th of February, Valentine's Day, which appears to be referenced here, or whether that's also referencing the 17th of February in terms of something else happening 3 days after the Valentine's event, which could be referenced by the love hearts, because we have 3 of them. And obviously Valentine's Day is 1 day, but we've got 3 love hearts here, so it could be saying to us 3 days after Valentine's Day something else happens, and that something else could be Donald Trump getting shot. As I've talked about the gun behind his head, that you can see in one of these clearer images, which is here, this kind of shape behind his head. You can see that the shape is kind of rectangular, pointing towards the back of his head, and you've got these lines also kind of indicating towards the back of his head, and you know, the whole kind of going blank. I've talked about Donald Trump possibly being shot before, but obviously with the references to 17 and the connections that Donald Trump already has to 7, I'm thinking it may be today that something happens. Again, we have an image appearing to show a headshot, and again some form of head wound here, where this outline seems to look like Donald Trump. Some of that I've gone over before, so apologies to any of you who are familiar with it. I just wanted to reiterate it for some of those who haven't seen it already. Donald Trump is going to be in Florida. He's in Florida already. This video is in reference to a second 9/11 event, iPet Goat 2. iPet Goat was the book that George Bush was reading on 9/11, and it's in a classroom. And the classroom is in Florida. And if this video is depicting events in terms of numbers and what could possibly happen, but also the location of this fictional school is actually the same location as the school in reality, then that would basically just give us Florida. When looking at this news report about the Valentine's Day massacre, it stood out that it just says 17 dead, comma, at least 12 injured. So it could be saying 17 dead as in 17 people died, or it could be saying 17 dead, as in the 17th dead. Could be a double, double meaning there. So I'm kind of looking at that and thinking, are they saying to us that on the 17th someone dies, or are they just saying that 17 people died in this Florida school shooting? Not sure, but 12 students, or 12 people, I'm not sure if they were all students, but 12 people were injured. 12 people here, all of which appear to have some form of injury. You can see the bandage around this figure's ribs here. You can see them. This could possibly be a bandage across this head here. Looks like some form of, head wound. A couple of dents over here, and it's 12 of them. And if that is giving us the number of people that were injured, as well as on the chalkboard giving us the number of people that died on Valentine's Day with the reference to the hearts, then that's significant. But if it's also saying that something else is going to happen 3 days later with the 3 hearts on the 17th of February, with the Fs represented all over the place, it could be, as I've said, that something happens to Donald Trump. He's in, as I mentioned, in Florida. He left at 5:40 p.m. Eastern Time with the First Lady, which is possibly significant. Could this be a representation of the First Lady? Just a thought, but I'm throwing it out there. So the reason he's gone to Florida is to meet with some of the bravest people on earth, but people whose lives have been totally shattered, and also working with Congress on many fronts. So he's basically going to meet the people that were affected by this school shooting. And it could be that someone, an activist or a parent, or, someone that's lost someone close to them, someone that may have lost a child, they may be so angry that they shoot Donald Trump. And again, with that kind of theory, it could be that they think the only way, the excuse that could be given is the only way that Congress or the lawmakers would take action is if something like that happened. And if something like that did happen to Donald Trump, then, it's likely that the Congress would probably be motivated to actually do something about guns, which brings on, the whole gun laws and, resistance to that, possible, civil action and maybe martial law and things like that. So there's a lot of things that could happen, escalating out of a situation like Donald Trump being shot. But again, there's no confirmation of this unless it happens. One time that I'm looking at, because the number 3 is represented a lot throughout this video. It could be saying Lunar 3rd, as I've said, but it could be saying 15 in terms of 24-hour clock, so 3 o'clock. Something may happen. It's a lot of information. Some of it is subjective, but just like with the other videos I've made, I am very self-critical of myself. So when I make these videos, I'm not just making them and putting them up on the internet. I'm actually thinking about them and realizing how many different interpretations that there are and that I've made personally myself. And, sometimes I even think to myself, what am I saying? Is this actually something that could possibly happen? And it's all very surreal trying to get ahead of events and trying to warn people about things that could potentially happen. But since the Valentine's Day massacre at the school in Florida happened, though some of the points that I discussed were incorrect, such as it happened in Florida, not in New York, it was school children that were shot and not Donald Trump, there were strong correlations, and that's given me confidence and a motivation to keep on doing this and to just express my thoughts. Whether they, are wild or not, I'll express them, There's plenty of reference to this being a volcano, and in the last couple of days, Cumbre Cumbria Vieja volcano could erupt after a swarm of seismic activity hit La Palma. 70 earthquakes. You know, they've convened an emergency meeting about it, and this is coming up to, you know, the 18th, where something like this could possibly take place. So, excuse me. I'm going to stick with my theory on the tsunami and possible missile attack happening on the 18th. And I'm putting this new theory out there that, according to the iPad Go video, from my interpretation, the 17th, today, later on today, Donald Trump there may be an attempt on Donald Trump's life. And I know some of you are supporters of Donald Trump and you don't like hearing things like that, but, you know, I'm not wishing for it to happen. I'm just saying it may happen according to what I'm interpreting from this video. So I think that's all I've got to share with you guys. We talked about the skeleton event and how it could possibly interpret into Donald Trump being dead and the 17 on the skeleton's tooth. How it looks like there's a 17 drawn when the yin-yang is separating. How there looks to be a 17 here and a 17 over here. 17's on the chalkboard. And the 17 appears to be connected to death, and that could be in reference to the children that died, the 17 that died on Valentine's Day, or it could be saying 3 days after this event, on the 17th, something else takes place. Maybe something connected to Donald Trump. You guys have a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and God bless.